Have you ever watched someone spend an entire weekend underneath a car they already own? Not because something was wrong with it, but because they needed it to be more powerful, more distinct, more theirs. To the outside world, it looks like obsession. Friends shake their heads. Family members wonder why someone would spend thousands of dollars on a car they could have simply sold and replaced. Co-workers joke that the vehicle gets more care and attention than anything else in that person's life. But here is what all of those people are missing. What is happening in that garage, with the grease-stained hands and the carefully chosen aftermarket parts, is not irrational at all. It is deeply, profoundly human. This isn't about cars. This is about something much deeper in the human psyche. When a person modifies their car, they are not simply upgrading metal and rubber. They are engaging in one of the most fundamental psychological acts humans are capable of: the act of creating an extension of the self. The painter does it with a canvas. The musician does it with sound. The writer does it with words. The car modifier does it with horsepower, body kits, and a set of forged wheels that no factory ever signed off on. And what psychologists have discovered about why they do it reveals something extraordinary, not just about car culture, but about the core of human motivation itself. So let's go inside the mind of the person in that garage. The first layer of psychology at work here is identity construction. In 1902, sociologist Charles Cooley introduced the concept of the looking-glass self, the idea that we understand who we are, in part, that by the image we project to the world. That projected image becomes a mirror for our own sense of self. For the car modifier, the vehicle is the most powerful looking-glass they own. When someone installs a custom exhaust, drops their suspension, or wraps their car in a color that has never appeared in any factory catalog, they are not just modifying an object. They are making a statement, not just to other drivers, but to themselves. I am not like everyone else. I refuse to be ordinary. This is who I am. Psychologists call this the need for uniqueness, a deeply documented personality trait linked to the desire to establish a distinct identity in a world that constantly pressures people toward conformity. And research consistently shows that the stronger a person's need for uniqueness, and the more heavily they invest in personalizing the objects closest to them. But there is another dimension to this identity work. Psychologists describe something called the ideal self, the version of yourself you are striving to become. The self that is more confident, more capable, more powerful than your current circumstances allow you to express. Think about a 23-year-old named Marcus. He works an entry-level job that has nothing to do with who he knows he is on the inside. His daily life offers him almost no visible proof of his ambitions. But when Marcus is behind the wheel of a car that he built, a car that turns heads, that sounds like nothing else on the road, that carries his fingerprints on every component, he is not just driving, he is broadcasting his ideal self to the world. That is not vanity. That is identity psychology at its most honest. Now let us go deeper, because identity is only part of the story. There is a second, equally powerful psychological force driving car modification, and it is rooted in the fundamental human need for control and mastery. Think about the world most people navigate every day: deadlines imposed by others, decisions made by managers, outcomes shaped by forces entirely outside their hands. Life, for most people, can feel remarkably passive. But in a garage, with a torque wrench in one hand and a vision in the other, everything changes. Here, the modifier is the architect, the engineer, the final decision maker. Every choice is theirs. The outcome belongs entirely to their skill and patience. Psychologists directly link this experience to self-determination theory, which identifies autonomy, the competence, and relatedness as the three core needs every human being requires to thrive. Car modification, done seriously, satisfies all three at once. And then there is something else happening in those long hours in the garage that science finds deeply significant. Hungarian-American psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi described a mental state he called flow, the experience of being so completely absorbed in a demanding, skill-intensive task that time stops. Stress evaporates. The outside world disappears. There is only the work and the deep rhythm of the work. For the person matching the difficulty of the task to the edge of their ability, this state does not arrive rarely. It becomes something they actively seek, something they return to the garage for, again and again. That is not obsession. That is a human being finding one of the deepest forms of psychological fulfillment available to them. But modification is rarely a solitary act, even when the work happens alone at midnight. Because the culture surrounding car modification is one of the most powerful social ecosystems in the modern world. Car meets, online forums, build threads that thousands of strangers follow with genuine investment. And why? Because underneath the performance upgrades and the custom paint, something profoundly social is happening. Abraham Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs places belonging and social connection as one of the most essential human requirements, above comfort, above almost everything except survival itself. Visual, Maslow's pyramid. The belonging tier lights up, surrounded by images of car culture. For many people, particularly those navigating a world that offers increasingly few genuine rites of passage, the car modification community provides exactly this: a tribe, a shared language, a set of values that says, "We see each other here." Someone who feels invisible in a corporate office or disconnected in a crowded city walks into a car meet and is immediately surrounded by people who understand precisely what it took to build what is sitting in their driveway. That recognition, that feeling of being seen and respected for something you built with your own hands, is psychologically powerful in ways that are difficult to overstate. Research in social psychology shows that belonging to a community with shared rituals dramatically reduces anxiety, deepens resilience, and anchors a person's sense of purpose. The car is the key that opens the door. Now, it would be incomplete to explore this psychology without acknowledging its shadow side. Psychologists who study consumer behavior have identified a phenomenon called compensatory consumption, the tendency to invest heavily in external possessions to fill an internal emotional void. For most modifiers, this is not the primary driver, but for some, the car becomes something else entirely. It becomes the answer to a question that was never really about cars. The person who escalates their build after a painful loss. The man who modifies more aggressively as other areas of his life slip out of control. The one for whom no modification is ever quite enough, because the need being filled was never mechanical to begin with. In these cases, what the garage becomes a displacement behavior, a way of channeling powerful, difficult-to-name emotions into something tangible, controllable, and socially respected. And here is what is important to understand about that. This is not weakness. This is not pathology. It is one of the most human responses to pain available to us. The question worth asking is, never why are they modifying their car? It is, what need is this actually serving? There is one final psychological layer that ties all of this together, and it may be the most powerful of all. The human brain is, at its core, a prediction and reward machine. When we set a goal, work toward it with skill and patience, and finally achieve it, the brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation, pleasure, and reinforcement. The same circuit that fires when we fall in love, achieve a long-sought success, or experience something genuinely meaningful. For the car modifier, this circuit fires at every stage of the build. The moment the new intercooler arrives, the first time the engine turns over after a full swap, the first drive after weeks of suspension work, when the car moves exactly the way the vision in your head promised it would. Each of these moments is a neurological reward, a hit of something deeply satisfying that brings the modifier back to the garage, again and again, with the same hunger. But beyond reward, research in creativity psychology identifies a category of person called a maker, someone whose psychological fulfillment is fundamentally tied to the act of building something that did not exist before. Car modifiers are makers. They begin with a factory object, designed by committees, and built to satisfy the broadest possible market, and transform it into something singular, something that has never existed before in quite this form, and never will again. That is not hobbyism. That is creativity in its most visceral, most mechanical, most honest expression. So the next time you see someone who has poured everything they have into a car, the money, the weekends, the skinned knuckles, and the sleepless nights, resist the urge to call it obsession. Because what you are really looking at is a person who found a way to answer some of life's most fundamental questions. Who am I? What can I create? Where do I belong? What can I actually control? Using the most unlikely of canvases, a car. These are not just modified vehicles. They are declarations of identity, monuments to mastery, tickets to belonging. And sometimes, quietly, privately, they are healing. The modification was never really about the car. It was always about the person underneath it. If this made you see car culture differently, or if you recognized yourself somewhere in this, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology behind the choices we make every day.